埋陪同人士入場。
Please invite the witnesses and the accompanying person to join us. King 真係 King 啊，龜佬啊，佢見係女啊 ，Jennifer。OK。屬家婆就戴耳筒，唔屬家婆就喺度呆坐。呢個屬家婆啊，呢個
調查講深港高速鐵路香港段建造工程延誤嘅背景及原委專責委員會嘅第9次公開聆訊。今日向專責委
Welcome to the Select Committee meeting to inquire into the background of and reasons for the delay of the construction of Hong Kong section of the Guangzhou-Shanghai-Hong Kong Express Rail Link. Today we have Mr. Anthony John William King, Project Director, and Mr. Ng Siu Kei, both from Jacobs. We have agreed to the request of Mr. King and Mr. Ng that they be accompanied by someone. The accompanying person to Mr. King and Mr. Ng is Ms. Jennifer Kirkin, Senior Corporate Lawyer from Jacobs. Members, please note that the accompanying person to Mr. King and Mr. Ng is not supposed to address the Select Committee. I have to remind the witnesses that this Select Committee has not been authorized to exercise the powers under Section 9(1) of the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance Cap 382. Therefore, the witnesses are not protected by the privileges for witnesses under Cap 382. In the course of examination in accordance with Section 18 of Cap 382, if someone in respect of material questions, give false answers willfully or to provide false or fabricated or doctored documents to the Select Committee is an offense. I believe the witnesses will be doing their utmost to help this Select Committee in discharging its functions. In accordance with our work procedure, members please pay attention to the following, and that is the privileges for members in the Select Committee under Cap 382 only apply to the course of the hearing. All members, including non-Select Committee members, should refrain from making comments outside the hearing on the matter discussed here. And also want to remind those in the public gallery and the media representatives disclosing the evidence provided by witnesses outside this hearing will not be protected by Cap 382. If necessary, those people in the public gallery and representative of the media should consult their own lawyers as regards their legal responsibility in this regard. I will be in due course ask the witnesses to confirm the written statement that they have submitted to the Select Committee and to admit the same as evidence provided to the Select Committee, and the same will be made available on our website for public access. We have reached the appointed hour to start, and we have a quorum. I now call the hearing in order. Mr. Anthony King and Mr. Ng Siu King, on the 20th of October 2015, you submitted a joint witness statement to the Secretariat of the Select Committee, i.e., Select Committee Paper W13 bracket C. Mr. Anthony King, do you now formally present this witness statement to the Select Committee as your evidence?
Yes.
Mr. Ng Siu Kei, do you now formally present this witness statement as your evidence?
方便列席
To make it convenient for the public and the media to follow the proceedings, we will ask the two witnesses to make the written statement public to them and will be available to them. Do you want to make any supplement to your written statement here now?
No.
劉生。OK， 好。咁我想提醒各位委員喺根據專責委員會工作。
I would like to remind the members that in accordance with paragraph 15 of our work methods and procedure, in the course of the open hearing, members should only ask questions related to the investigation, and they should be factual. That comes under our terms of reference. Members should not make comments or offer their own opinion in respect of certain matters. I would refer to paragraph 16E of our work method and procedure to decide whether a question is relevant to the terms of reference of the Select Committee and is within the scope of our investigations. According to paragraph 16F, members may ask us succinct follow-up questions so as to clarify the answer or to seek elaborations or clarifications. I, as chairman, has the discretion to decide whether a question is a legitimate follow-up question and to allow the question or not. Every member has 10 minutes to raise questions, and the time allowed would include witnesses' replies. Members may wish to ask questions of one or two witnesses. Let me put the first question to the two witnesses. In accordance with paragraph 13 of your statement, your company was engaged by the Highways Department as modification and verification consultant, M&V consultant, and your job is to help the Highways Department to monitor the XRL project. And also, in paragraphs 3 and 4, both of you started to work on XRL since 2009. I would like the two witnesses to briefly describe the way you have participated in the XRL that your consultancy has involved in since 2009. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We started in 2009 on the first stage of the M&V, which was the design and investigation stage. And we were engaged by the Highways Department to assist them in their monitoring and verification role. We put together a team to look at the quality, safety program and cost issues around the project through the design period, and carried out a number of reviews of design documents, preliminary design and detailed design. We carried out some reviews of some tender documents. We carried out audits on the work of the design consultants working with MTRCL. We were carrying out work with the Buildings Department, where we had a team seconded to look at the designs submitted by MTRCL for the project.
Sorry, Mr. King 打斷你一陣，你
Sorry for my interruption. How big is your team? What's the establishment?
The establishment of our team was about 22 full-time equivalents. That means that we had some people full-time and some people not full-time, but 22 full-time equivalents. And we had access to about 30 experts on specific subjects within a normal high-speed rail project.
係好，請你繼續。
Please continue.
Okay, so the key to our work was that this is a very large project. There are an enormous amount of documents and information, and so we could only approach this by sampling the documents, and we did this by carrying out a simple risk analysis of where the risks were likely to occur in the project, and based on that that risk analysis, which we carried out jointly with the Highways Department, we were able to focus on the key areas where risk may occur. The work that we did was all reported to the Highways Department in written reports, by written reports on the documents we reviewed, by monthly report to the Highways Department, and by presentation to the Highways Department, where we explained and discussed with them the issues that were occurring. In 2010, we were further asked to assist Highways in the construction stage, which is the stage that we're working on now, and we went forward with a similar sized team, but instead of them all being design-based, we have a monitoring team on site. We've continued with our work for the Buildings Department. We're continuing to review documents, but then largely documents generated by the construction contracts. And again, we review documents and pass comments in writing to the Highways Department, and we have a small team on site who are monitoring the site works. They, with the Highways Department, visit sites once a month to look at specific things facilitated by MTRCL. We're continuing to carry out audits of MTRCL construction management teams at the working level for each of the key contracts, and we are working on specific items that arise from time to time. And as well as that side, which dealt with the program and the quality and safety issues and construction issues, we have a team involved in the finances of the project, assisting Highways Department on a monthly basis determine the build-up of costs as submitted by MTRCL.
你可唔可以講講你個人嘅？
Can you tell me about your personal participation since 2009? What is it?
Well, in 2009, I was not in Hong Kong. I visited Hong Kong on a monthly basis, and my main responsibility was for the audits. But as Deputy Project Director then, I was also responsible with the Project Director and the other Deputy Project Director and the Project Manager for helping to guide the team in the areas we should look at and how we should respond to Highways Department's requirements. That has continued from 2009 up until 2015, where for various circumstances, due to various circumstances, I became project director, and since then, since April of this year, I've been in Hong Kong full time during the build-up to the current situation on site.
係吳生你。
Mr. Ng, do you have anything to add?
I'm not going to repeat what Mr. King has mentioned about what our role, what our scope of work, and how we carry our work. But as far as myself is concerned, I'm involved in the XR project since 2009, and being the project manager for the monitoring and verification consultancy services. Up till now, I'm still the project manager for the construction phase MMV works.
在邊一個 phase 話？
The
Which one?
second phase of the monitoring and verification, we call it MMV 2. The first phase is on the design and the investigation phase. We call it MMV 1. As Mr. King just mentioned, in 2010, we were engaged on the second phase on this construction, monitoring on the construction works, which we call it, in simple terms, we call it MV2. Okay, so I was engaged as the project manager since 2009, and up till now, I'm still the project manager for the MV works. I am the main key point of contact between our company and our client Harris department. And my main responsibility is to manage and coordinate the works of our project team to ensure adequate resources and also appropriate resources are deployed onto the project at the appropriate time to make sure that we have a quality deliverable to our clients.
你可唔可以同呢個委員會講講？
Can you tell the subcommittee, the select committee, well, what is the extent of your involvement in the project? Have you encountered any particular difficulties? Can you share with us, whether it's on a personal level or on the level of your company?
I don't think we've met any difficulties based on our expectation and our client's expectation of what we were required to do.
係完全冇 difficulties， 係完全
No difficulties whatsoever that you've encountered.
In carrying out our services, no difficulties, no personal difficulties. As you can see from our statement, at some stage information was hard to obtain from MTRCL, but no difficulties with MTRCL in terms of the work we had to do. For example, our audits on site, our site visits, and the monthly progress meetings that we held with MTRCL contract managers.
係吳生。
Well, generally, we don't have too much difficulty on our works. Occasionally, we may have faced with some difficulties in getting information from MTRCL because we have a system of requesting documents from the MTRCL via the SharePoint system, which was established at the commencement of our work. And we make our request for the documents, and MTRC generally forward all these documents to us. Sometimes maybe take a little bit longer than expected, but we do receive the document. But in some of the sensitive documents, like the overall master program, we may have difficulty obtaining that instantly in first-hand information. So that's why that, strictly speaking, in terms of difficulty, this may be one of the area that we are facing with some sort of.
你可唔可以同我？
Can you share with us what kind of information and document?
Information related to the overall master program. Because we keep asking for updating of the overall master program. We do receive constructor or contract program for individual contracts. So we have a knowledge of the progress of each individual contract and how the delay of each individual contract impacting on the overall master, interfering with adjacent contractor works or adjacent contract that that's the information that we sometimes may not be having the first-hand information.
Okay.
Mr. Loy Kwok. Thank you. My first question is to follow up on the communication between Jacobs and the MTRCL. As the chairman asked, just now Mr. Ng talked about project program. And it's paragraph 96 of the statement. That is, in June 2011, Jacobs asked the MTRCL to provide the overall project program. However, the MTRCL did not provide that. Is it paragraph 3.16 of the independent report, that is the integrated master program? That is whether the overall master program, that's equal to the integrated, the overall project program, does it equal to the integrated master program as mentioned by the independent expert panel? And did the MTRCL provide information afterwards? There is another point, it's related to communications as well. It's paragraph 136 in your statement. In September 2013, the MTRCL presented a partial opening proposal to the Highways Department and Jacobs. Was it at this time that your company knew for the first time about the partial opening proposal, and whether the Highways Department consulted you two gentlemen whether about the feasibility of this proposal? Mr. King or Mr. Ng?
In answer to the first question, the project master program and the integrated master program are the same thing. And in terms of the MOR, that we had one presentation, and that was the first time that Jacobs had knowledge that there was an MOR proposal on the table. I can't say any more because after that date we had no direct involvement in the MOR.
The presentation, Chairman, the presentation to us was on the, I think, remember correctly, is on the August 2013. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the first time we are aware of the MOR idea.
我想跟進就係
I'd like to follow up. After that, there was no follow-up or discussion on MOR, is that right?
We had no further formal discussions on MOR with our client or with MTRC.
Okay.
Chairman, I'd like to ask a further question. The former Highways Department Director, Mr. Y. Chi Sing, in the June hearing said that in the end the project was broken down into 40 or so contracts with commencement dates. As Mr. Y said, when we looked into it, we should look at the commencement date, not just the completion date. When there is a delay in the commencement date without adjustment of the completion date, then the buffer period will be shortened. Do you think that the failure of the MTRCL to adjust the completion date will result in delay of various contracts?
The most significant delay to award was contract 810A in WKT, and that was finally awarded 3 months late, and we reported that to our client at the time as being a risk.
我想跟進問
Sorry, Mr. Ng, anything to add?
No, Chairman.
You raised the question, but the MTRCL did not respond to you or made any adjustments, right, Mr. King?
We raised that issue in our monthly report to our client. In the vast quantity of other reports that went through to MTRCL, and this is not the facts that I know, this issue was probably raised, but we certainly raised the issue of a delayed award of 810A a number of times in the run-up to the award of that contract, because it was clearly the largest and most difficult contract, and it was awarded last.
好，主席我
I would like to continue with my question. In your statement, paragraph 33, you mentioned that your company would use the MTRCL's PIMS, Project Integrated Management System, for process verification and as a reference point for monitoring activities. And on the 2nd of June this year, in the hearing, Mr. Y said that the MNV, that is Jacobs, can have had direct access to obtain information of the MTRCL, including a correspondence of subcontractors to MTRCLs, but not the attachments. And if the MNV consultant thought that the information could help with their work, then they could, through proper channel, ask for the attachment of the contractors from MTRCL. So, well, if your team wanted to have access to the PIMS, was there any restrictions imposed by the MTRCL, Mr. King?
Just a clarification, the PIMS is MTRCL's project management system. It's their procedures in carrying out their construction management. And we had access to the PIMS and to the revisions to the PIMS for our work to date, and in fact we reviewed the PIMS at the start of our assignment, and we review each of the PIMS as they're updated by MTRCL as they move forward.
Mr. Ng.
Access into the system to obtain the information. I think Mr. Low just probably referring to the SharePoint system that we have that was set up at the start of our project. Well, we do have access to the system to obtain or to view the document, whether online or to request for the documents. As I mentioned just now, we make the request based on our risk approach on the risk items and classify what sort of document we would like to review, and then send our request to MTRCL via our client, and then we will get the document afterwards.
Chairman, I have a further question. Mr. Chen Chi-yan, the head of the Railway Division of Highways Department, said on the 20th of October this year to this select committee that the MTRCL has not come up with a project master plan. But we know that is a master plan on the part of the MTRCL. And then for every project items, there will be different timetables. What's your view on this? Do you think that there's a lack of master plan on the part of MTRCL so that the parties concerned were not aware which completion dates of the different projects will be crucial to the whole project? Mr. King?
I think in terms of master plan, you're referring to the master program, which is the timeline for the project. MTRCL did have a master program. They had contract master programs for every contract, which under the terms of the contracts were the programs that were used in contractual terms. That was converted into a project master program, which also included the interface between the contracts and through to the testing and commissioning, which was not necessarily contract based. MTRCL certainly had that, and to our knowledge, they used that in terms of planning the works that were to come. But that master program, which we saw sometimes at audits when it was tabled, but was never released to us for reasons that MTRCL may tell you. But the point about the master program was its criticality is based on the critical path to completion and not necessarily the progress.
Chairman, no more.
Mr. Ng?
其實即係以你哋
On the part of your company, well, this is going to be an important project for you. It seems that you didn't have access to the master program. Was your work affected in any way by this?
We requested the master program because it would have assisted us in our work, as it would have assisted our client, the Highways Department. But MTRCL were very transparent in their reporting of progress and target dates, and very transparent in their reporting of contract target dates. And while it may have affected our ability to understand when the completion date was, as it was shifting, it didn't prevent us from reporting on a regular basis that the project was late and that the delays were mounting and that the delays were eventually going to affect the completion date of the project.
主席綜合頭
Chairman, from the answers we have obtained, I would like to put this to the two witnesses. So are you only seeing, were you just seeing the trees but not the forest? You knew a lot about the details, but on the whole, you didn't see the big picture, the forest. Mr. King?
Do you think you could ask that question again? Sorry.
嗰個
Let me repeat. Or I should use English, perhaps?
The response to the few questions have been asked. I have an impression that in your carrying out of your work, seems that you can see the trees, but unable to see the whole forest. That means you may have the details about individual projects, individual program, but the overall plan is not what you can master.
What the Honourable W.K. Low was saying is that while you were appraised of all the minute details of the developments of the projects, but you have missed the overall progress, the overall plan of the project, especially, I think, with regard to completion.
Thank you, Chairman. With respect, our role was to have a high-level view, and from very early on in the project, we had an overview of the programme, and that is why we reported consistently that the project was in delay due to the various component delays of the various contracts, and if the delays continued and weren't recovered, there was going to be a risk to the end date of the project. And and that reporting was consistent, and as we moved into, I believe, 2012, we then made our own simple analysis of what the delays meant in terms of completion date. And again, that was reported to Highways Department on a regular basis.
Mr. Ng, do you have anything to supplement?
Well, we have gathered information of all the progress of individual contract from information that we receive. We made our simple analysis. As we said, we are only on a high level. We don't have all the necessary information to carry out a detailed independent assessment of the likely completion date. we could only do whatever we could based on the information that we have in hand. With a simple estimation or analysis, we came up with a project delay as early as in 2012, and then we make our report to our client, Highways Department. That's, I think, overall, we don't see there's any a problem with our work as far as on the detail of the project, or even on the as an overall view of the overall situation of the project.
好，主席可唔可以再好
Last question, Chairman. I have a question for the two witnesses. After submitting your reports, after pointing out the problems as you saw them, did you think that the MTRCL and the Highways Department attach importance to your views, and did they take necessary follow-up action after you have pointed out that there might be delays?
Just one point of clarification. Our relationship was with Highways Department. We were assisting them in their M&V works. We had no direct relationship with MTRCL, except at audits, but no other direct relationship with MTRCL at all. We operated at what has been called the third tier of the 3 tiers of M&V, and we were reporting to our client on a regular basis, and we attended briefing meetings with MTRCL on the construction progress of contracts, as well as the extracts from the reports that we have in our statement. That we also presented our findings on a monthly basis to RDO, and that they took them forward. But in what form they took them forward and how those were discussed, we have no knowledge, no factual knowledge.
Okay. Oh.
Thank you. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. I wonder if Mr. Ng would like to supplement? Mr. Ng, with regard to the last question. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. So we have got some answers from the two gentlemen from Jacobs. Let me clarify a point. Was Jacobs authorized and have access to the details of the project if you needed them? Because you have access to PIMS. The PIMS system was accessible. And through PIMS, you will be able to access all details of the contracts, but you didn't have access to the master program. So what you could do was to assess the piecemeal situations with regard to different components, but you had no information to the critical path of the entire project. Is my understanding in any way inaccurate? Because I have that impression from the answers you have given to Dr. Lowe's questions. So were you fully aware of how things were progressing overall? So are you trying to ask this question, Mr. Wu, since they did not have access to the overall master program or plan? For example, you don't have the integrated progress report for the entire project.
Thank you, Chairman. Just again, one clarification. The PIMS is a process for managing projects. The access to the documents was through a document management system called SharePoint. And it was through SharePoint that we could access documents that were on SharePoint by requesting through Highways Department to MTRCL. And we requested the documents that we needed, and there were thousands of documents on SharePoint. We had to be selective, and so we selected documents to assist us in the work that we were doing, and we did not get.
Mr. King 嗰個唔係問題，或者
Mr. King, no, I don't think that's Mr. Wu's question. Perhaps I can break down the question from Mr. Wu into a few questions. Do you have any access to the overall master plan or master program or progress of the MTRCL?
We did not receive a copy of the master program in the period leading up until April 2014.
2000 what?
2014.
即係去到2014年之後，你就會攞到嗰個 master。
In other words, you did receive this after April 2014? I think the question has been answered. According to Mr. King, you did not know the critical path to completion. Can you tell us what's the impact of the lack of the critical path to completion for your work?
We did not see MTRCL's project master program given to us as a whole document that we could review. It was tabled at various audits, and so we could discuss it. We could ascertain what the critical path was, what were the final contracts to be finished, and what were the elements of the final contracts that were to be finished that would impact the opening of the railway and the opening of WKT. But what we couldn't do was ascertain the impacts of the changing delays to the projects in the changing to the critical path. Okay. And again, we reported that when we were reporting on the progress that was declared by MTRCL and that we had observed ourselves, that while the reporting method that was being used for reporting delays was fine and it was accurate, the criticality of the critical path was the important thing.
我想問下 Mr. King， 咁
So I want to ask, since you can't get the critical path for an independent assessment, however, you have told your client, Highways Department, about this. You did tell them. You requested through Highways Department for MTRCL to provide the critical path or the master program. Or did you do it through your client, the Highways Department, to ask for the MTRCL to provide the master program? When did you make a request to the Highways Department? Well, for the first time. When did you make that request?
It was certainly in the very early days of the project, and in fact there is a paragraph in our report which specifically refers to the master program. I can't find it at the moment.
主席，可唔可以咁樣樣呢？因為
Let's do it this way. Well, perhaps you supply the information to us on paper. That is, the first time when you made the request with the Highways Department for the master program. Can I get more information? Not just the first time, because it may be a repeated request made to the Highways Department. But it seems that after April 2014, it was only then that Jacobs got information about the master program. So I want to know, from the time when Jacobs took up this job, they have been making requests for the master program, and I'd like some information. What did you ask for? Well, Jacobs could not get information about the master program. That's why it's affected their assessment of the progress. And then they have to go through Highways Department. Highways Department dealt with it or they did not. But I would like to see the whole flow of requests made and responses given. Mr. King and Mr. Ng, are you able to provide the requests you've made to your client, the Highways Department, to ask the NTRCL for the master program, or your requests made and the responses from the Highways Department over the years? Please give us the information if you have it.
Our reports and the work that we do is the property of the Highways Department, and therefore any release of that documentation will have to come through them.
或者你向佢
Perhaps you can ask them. If they refuse, if they don't allow you to provide the information, then you tell us.
Yes, Chairman.
好嘛？唔該。
OK。
I want to follow up on the second part about site visits. I believe that is a very important part of your M&V work. In your statement, it's pointed out that all site visits will have to be arranged or assisted by the MTRCL. So first, whether for every site visit is for a specific purpose. That is, you will conduct site visit for a specific issue or reason, and whether you had to communicate with the Highways Department prior to the site visit, and you had to fully brief the Highways Department about what specific reasons you needed to conduct a site visit. And since you had to make a request with the NTRCL for the site visit, did you have to inform the NTRCL about your specific reason before they agree? And after the site visit, would there be a full report, full findings given to the Highways Department, setting out your comments on the issues you have identified? Could you maybe repeat your question, because I don't really understand your question? And maybe I will take it step by step. For every site visit, was it done with a specific purpose, yes or no?
King.
Chairman, I'll just have to explain the protocols behind the site visit. At the beginning of our work, Highways Department and MTRCL had agreed the protocols. One of the issues was that our work shouldn't interrupt or interfere too much with MTRCL's work and site teams, which is reasonable, and therefore it was agreed that on a monthly basis we could visit the sites that we selected, and which we agreed with Highways Department beforehand, because they had a team of engineers themselves that were monitoring each of the sites. We then put together a program of visits. We wouldn't visit every site every month. We'd visit the sites where we knew there were things of interest and issues that we'd seen in the MTRCL reports and that we knew about. And we were specific about the site visits, and within the site visits we told MTRCL what we would like to see in the site visits, and when the site visits were complete, and during the site visits we talked to the MTRCL site teams on site. On some we were given a briefing before we went out to site on progress and what would be seen that day, and at the end of each site visit we prepared a report for the Highways Department, which they keep on record.
OK. Mr. King,
Mr. King has already addressed my concern. It seems that from according to what Mr. King said, every site visit is about what the areas of interest of Jacobs. Can they give me information about every site visit, the report, and the Highways Department's responses? Give me a summary. You mean about the audit? No.
頭先 Mr. King 講咗，每一個 site visit 佢都係要 look into something.
Mr. King said that for every site visit they would look at something they're interested in, or it's about the progress of work. Mr. King, Mr. Ng, can you provide the information?
Chairman, similar to my previous answer, all those reports were produced in confidence for our client, and it would be up to our client to release them.
係，或者你向話同委員會有專責委。
Perhaps you will talk to the Highways Department saying that we have made such a request. If they do not agree with your divulging the information, then you give us a written answer. I would like to know, in the project control group, because in that group, the MTRCL would provide information on their delay mitigation measures. I would want to know about the role of Jacobs. That is, in the delay recovery measures, were you involved in the process relating to delay recovery measures?
We were involved in the process for delay recovery measures in that we reviewed the PCG papers that were submitted to the PCG meeting and made comments to Highways Department on those papers. We didn't attend the PCG meetings ourselves.
OK， Highways 喺2012年嘅時間咧就 係咪喺2012？
Was it that you started receiving from the year 2012 that the delayed recovery measures of MTRCLs were not effective? Mr. King?
I think as a preamble to that, all of the delay recovery measures that were proposed were at the time proposed in good faith as being items that would improve the outturn of the project. We reported at certain stages that despite the implementation of delay recovery measures, the programs were still slipping. Were still slipping.
You have finished with answering your question? But that's what's said in the statement in 2012. It was pointed out that the delay recovery measures, the effectiveness of those measures were doubtful. Was that the first time when Highways Department knew about this? And I want to know about the response of the Highways Department. Mr. King?
Yes, yeah, I'm just thinking. I don't know whether that was the first time the Highways Department. In this statement, that is the first time we reported it. We probably reported it at other times. The fact that although there had been delay recovery measures implemented, the program was still slipping. Now, whether that statement was specifically to a specific delay recovery measure, or whether it was a generality of the program slipping, even though delay recovery measures had been implemented, I can't say for a fact.
我想問一問就係翻跟進同一個方向嘅。
Along the same line, It's a supplementary question. We know that in 2012, Jacobs had already raised the issue about a delay with the Highways Department. In 2013, it was said that if nothing was done, there would be a delay of 11 months. So a lot of delay recovery measures, DRMs, were implemented to try to remedy the situation, but to no avail. And if the delay got more serious, actually, did you give any advice to the Highways Department? When you first spotted it, the delay was small and it was getting more and more serious. How did you propose the Highways Departments deal with it?
Chairman, our role was to observe and to review and to report, and we reported to the Highways Department through our monthly reports and at monthly meetings and through our review reports, and we reported the delays, the escalating delays, and then some assessment of what those delays would mean for the end date of the project. We, as I said, we operated directly with Highways Department. Any discussions that the Highways Department had with others, I have no knowledge of.
Well, in your expert opinion, they did have a project completion day, and that is August 2015 for the whole project. In 2013, according to a report, there would be a delay of 11 months. From November 2013 to August 2015, there would be the need to catch up for the 11-month delay. In your expert opinion or Jacob's opinion, would it be really feasible?
I'm not sure I'm here to give an expert opinion. At the time that the delays were occurring, we reported the delays, and we quantified the delays, and we pointed out that if the delays weren't resolved, what the impact would be on the completion date.
I withdraw my question in that case. Mr. Wu, after Jacobs reported the delay, what was the Highways Department's response? Was there any instruction given to Jacobs to follow up the relevant issues? Mr. King?
We were in dialogue with the Highways Department at the meetings. We discussed the seriousness of the delay, and we continued doing the work that we'd been doing to look at the key critical activities and to continue reporting to the Highways Department.
So you do not receive any comments or instruction from the Highway Department on the delay of the project?
Well, there was plenty of discussion and comments by the Highways Department. The whole project team were concerned about the delay, but I don't recall personally whether we received a written instruction to do something. But the Highways Department and us and MTRCL were fully aware that there were delays.
Next, we have Mr. Michael Tien.
The contract that you were awarded by the government was close to, what, $100 million? The contract that government awarded you, was it close to 100 million Hong Kong dollars?
85 million.
Okay, close to 100 million, 85. And that's all taxpayers' money. The nature of the contract that you signed with government, I'm getting very curious now. Was it basically to answer each and every question when government asks, and if they don't ask, you don't volunteer? Or was there a general spirit to ensure that the contract was completed on time and that there was no cost overrun? How would you conceive of the nature of that 85 Hong Kong dollar, $1 million contract?
Mr. King.
I'm not sure exactly what your question is. Are you?
What's the purpose of that contract that the government awarded you?
MTRCL were, if I can put it into context, MTRCL were awarded the job of delivering the XRL project because of their track record and history of delivering similar projects. It was done under a new form of contract for Hong Kong, a so-called concession arrangement with an entrustment agreement. And
that we all know. My question is the contract government awarded you.
And the government were...
What were you supposed to do?
The government were carrying out M&V services, and we were assisting the government in carrying out those services to review the work of MTRCL, to assess whether they were delivering the project in accordance with their processes, and that they were complying with good practice in safety and quality. And
okay, so strictly giving advice, not to use your best endeavor to advise government to work with MTR to make sure that the project was completed on time, right? There's a big difference.
I'm sure.
One is simply give advice.
Sorry,接不實意，你可唔可以俾佢答啊？你問咗問題。
Sorry, you have already put your question. Would you allow the witnesses to answer first? Mr. King?
Spirit. I'm asking about your understanding of the spirit of the contract.
The spirit of the contract was us working with Highways Department, whose main endeavour was to ensure that the project was delivered on time. But the delivery of the project was in the hands of MTRCL.
Great, great, great. So your understanding is that the spirit of the contract is to work with MPR through government to ensure that the project was completed on time. Okay, now, if that's the case, then I'd like to know, the first time you attended this so-called PSC meeting was in February 2015, correct?
Correct.
Prior to that, you had never attended the PSC meeting, which is actually very, very crucial because that's a direct interaction between government and MTR where everything and anything would be asked and answered. Okay, so my question then becomes, you sign a contract with $85 million taxpayers' money with the government, and you knew perfectly well that your main job is to help ensure that it's completed on time, but you weren't even invited to the PSC meeting until all hell broke loose in 2014. Do you accept that? Did you fight for attendance at these meetings? Did you actually ever tell government that, you know, if we are not allowed to attend these meetings, there's no way I can do my job? You know, I have to resign from my contract? Do you feel attending that is critical for you to really understand this whole thing rather than keep reading papers and charts and charts?
係 Mr. King， 請你答。
Mr. King, do you think that attending the meeting of the PSC is important, and it's not just about looking and reviewing documents? Was it important to your work?
The protocols and the methodology under which we carried out our work was as directed by our client. Our client required us to support them in the work that we did, and we were not invited to the PSC meetings.
Did you ask to be invited?
I don't recall. I wasn't here all of the time.
係阿吳生，你哋有冇要求過咧？
Mr. Ng? Well, your company, sorry, Mr. Tin, perhaps you should wait for an answer to the previous question. I would like to ask the question first. You receive $85 million from taxpayers. You admit that the spirit of the contract would be to ensure that the timely completion of the project, to the best of your ability. You were not invited to the PSC meeting. Did you ask for attendance, or do you insist on having such invitations?
Because our main role is to monitor and carry the MMV services to ensure that MTRC are carrying out their work in accordance with their project management system and in accordance with the entrustment agreements. We are not obliged to for the problem that arise during the course of the construction that caused the delay. As far as I recall, the protocol for our monitoring system was set up at the start of our services, and we were directed by our clients to carry out the works in accordance with the brief that we are.
主席啊，我時間有限，我個問題好簡單啫，你有冇強？
My time is limited. My question is simple. Did you insist on having the ability to attend the PSG meeting?
But we can check, but I can't recall.
吳生，你即係話俾我聽。
So, Mr. Ng, you are telling me that you accepted this job, you were awarded the contract, and you understand the mission or the terms of your work would be to ensure the timely completion of the project. And we are talking about an important meeting because you will only be able to know whether DRMs proposed by MTLCL would work or not. And you could have asked question about the critical path. You could raise the question at the PSC meeting about the critical path. But you were never there until February 2015. So how could you discharge your duties? So you were told whatever MTRC would like to tell you. You could have queried what the MTRCL have been doing at the PCG meetings. Why didn't you insist on attending the meeting?
Well, we have this three-tier system. The protocol set up at this with this three-tier system. We were directed by our client because at each tier we have different people, and we are assisting the highways department in the MMV works. And then our clients, they also have a team of professional engineers who will be also sitting in this second level and the third highest level meeting up to the director's level. So all our reporting is all in accordance with what we are asked to do, and we.
Okay. All you were asked to do.
Well, the engineer from the highways department we will bring forward our comment or our concern to the second level or even to the highest level to MTRCL and.
即係簡單嚟講，你唔記得你有冇要求出席呢個會議？
So you cannot recall whether you asked to attend. Well, my question is not whether they invited you. Well, I'm saying that you were awarded this contract by the government. So apart from commercial consideration, you have to bear in mind that we are talking about taxpayers' money. You should point out what's wrong. And if they didn't give you any document, would you remain silent? I don't think so. And this is a contract worth $85 million. You should have asked the highway department that it would be important. You should say it's important that I attend this meeting. if highway department would like to be assisted, and they kept saying that trust me, and all you could do was to trust them, because if you attended the meeting, if you had attended the meeting, you would have known whether the DRMs were working. So you cannot recall whether you did request that. In retrospect, do you think that you are guilty of dereliction of duties?
What's the question about? Sorry, what was the question again?
可唔可以再
吳生，你答唔到我啊？
Can you not answer my question? Are you guilty of dereliction of duty? That's the question.
Well, we follow all what we are asked to do, and I don't think we have made any mistake on as far as we are concerned.
咁你原本話係想
Well, you said you would like to do your best to ensure the completion of the project, but you did not attend the most important meetings of all because you were not invited, and you cannot even recall whether you made the request to attend as a consultant. You are a consultant, so I have some doubts about your professionalism. And don't forget, we are talking about taxpayers' money.
Yes, please.
I understand that. May I just answer that? MTRCL were required to ensure the project was delivered. The Highways Department were monitoring what they were doing, but the responsibility for delivering the project was MTRCL, and we were assisting the Highways Department. The Highways Department set out certain protocols. Some agree with MTRCL about meetings and site visits and various other things. And we followed those protocols, and we reported consistently from the information we had about the status of the project, what was happening on the project, and the delays and the consequence of the delays. And so it was absolutely clear to everybody our view on the state of the project from 2011 up until 2014.
in November of 2013, all right, 1 month before December, when you declared that Project 810 A and B were 53 weeks behind. In November of 2013, do you still believe that any kind of DRM can salvage the situation?
MTRCL were reporting that despite the delays, they could recover.
I see. And you tend to give them the benefit of a doubt, just like the government.
We were not in a position to give them the benefit of the doubt. We reported what we saw and what we read in the reports and made our assessment and reported to government.
And your report to government in November of 2013 was that you do not believe it can be completed on time, or that subject to the effectiveness of the DRM, it could be completed on time. What exactly was your advice to government in November of 2013?
22.
Because even that meeting, you were not there.
田北辰議員，我俾你答呢。
No, we have subsequently seen the events that led up the last quarter of 2013. We were not at any of those meetings. We weren't appraised of any of those meetings. We were continuing with our work on site in monitoring the contract programs and the work that was being done on site.
係，OK，或者下一輪啊，田北辰。
Next round, Mr. Tian. Mr. Tian has actually raised an important question, and I'd like to take the opportunity to clarify something for the Select Committee about your work. Previously, when I heard from you, it seemed like you're a monitoring and verification consultant. Emphasis on consultant. And it's one of your duties to ensure that the project will be completed before the target date. But in reply to Mr. Tian's question, it seems that your role is entirely passive. You only respond to requests or questions. You're entirely passive. You don't do anything on your own initiative. You won't give advice or comment. You only react to the Highways Department. Say, for example, answer questions, give advice, do this, do that. You did not take the initiative to provide professional advice to your client, the Highways Department, right? Which is correct then, because initially you said that you had to ensure on behalf of the Highways Department that the project would be completed before the target date, and you're a consultant. But in reply to Mr. Tian's question, it's not the role of a consultant. You're more of a mechanic. So I'd like to hear from you two gentlemen. What exactly was your role?
Chairman, the responsibility, and excuse me if I go back over this, the responsibility for delivering the project on time was with MTRCL. The Highways Department were monitoring their work and we were assisting them in the monitoring. We reported exactly what we had seen by reviews and site visits, and we gave advice in our reporting and at our progress meetings about the status of the project and what would happen if the project continued in the path that it was going. And so it wasn't a passive role. It was proactive in terms of finding the information, sorting the information, and presenting it to our client.
Mr. Ng.
I think that's no more supplement.
主席
Chairman. But they didn't even attend any meetings. So based on what did they already said that they did not attend any meetings and they did not ask to attend any meetings. Mr. Gary Fan. Well, Jacobs may be engaged by the government to be an independent consultant, but from the suggestions that you have made, little importance was attached to them by the Highways Department and the MTRCL. That's why we wonder whether you actually your work is actually effective. On the 6th of June, Mr. Liu, the Director for Highways, provided us with an information that is G9 Annex 2, saying that the independent consultant actually submitted a report on a site investigation and technical situation, and on the 12th of January 2012 you have made a free critical comment on the geotechnical condition. And according to your understanding, these three comments you have made, were they the reasons for the delay, and did the Highways Department and the MTRCL attach importance to the three suggestions or three comments that you made?
Sorry, could you repeat the document number?
Yes, it's G9 Annex 2. It's from the Director for Highways, submitted on the 9th of June by Mr. Liu. The Director is a supplementary information submitted to the Select Committee. It's about a site investigation and the ground condition.
I'm not sure if we've got that with us. Thank you.
William 係吳生係咪啊？
William Ng, does it refer to you, Mr. Ng? It's a letter dated on the 12th of January 2012, sent to the Highways Department in English. You talk about critical observation.
Sorry, Mr. Fan, can you?
Mr. Fan, can you refer us to the paragraph again? Is the letter dated on the 12th of January from you to the MTRCL?
I've got the letter here.
No, it's to Highways Department.
All is it too high? Our letter is.
And, well, 3 critical observations were mentioned. That is in relation to the review of the site investigation and the investigation of the ground condition. It's a report.
請問你哋揾唔揾到嗰封信喺邊度啊？
Can you find the letter? We still have another session. Perhaps I will ask other questions first. I don't want to waste time. Well, the director for highways in the last hearing told us that in monitoring the progress of MTRCL, they had this observation that the delay may not result in a delay in the end. I don't agree with that. And in July 2013, the consultant was of the view that the completion date of the XRL project may suffer a delay of 11 months. And in the statement in the paragraph 92 in the annex, the consultant said that in July and 2013, in the monthly report, you indeed raised the issue about the estimate of a delay of 11 months. However, the director for highways told us that the independent consultant, that is you, that the 11-month delay was based on this. That is, that if the MTRCL did not take any DRM, that would result in an 11-month delay. And the highways chose to believe in the MTRCL. That's why they did not listen to your warning. Friendly reminder, however you call it. So, do you agree with the view of the director for highways? You talked about an 11-month delay. Did you consider the impact of the DRM implemented by the MTRCL? Mr. King?
The 11-month delay was our assessment based on the information we had from MTRCL, which we reported to Highways Department. And that was a raw calculation based on the situation at the time. It did not consider the impact of any future DRMs or any DRMs that were in the pipeline. It was a straight interpolation of the current delay to the end of the project.
好，明白。好，咁主席，我第
On my third question, the CEO of the MTRCL came to the hearing, admitted that the advanced work of MTRCL was compressed. As a result, 810A, 810B, 811A, these 3 contracts related to the WKT were revised on a number of times, and the number of times was quite shocking. 810A, it was in June 2013, there were about 13,513 times of adjustments or amendments. And according to the information, could these revisions been avoided if they conduct their advanced works properly? And these revisions, is it just like what the MTRC said on a number of times, that there are small revisions that would not result in delay? Mr. King?
I'm not sure I can answer that question, except to say that on major construction projects, most drawings get revised a number of times, from preliminary design through detailed design, and then when you get to site and site conditions are understood. Apart from that, I can't answer the specific question that you raised.
唔使咁補充。
Anything to add?
但係根據你
According to your expert judgment and your experience, that's A10A, A10B, and 811A. Well, the NTICL refused to give details. Well, 2 years ago, for one of the contracts in mid-2013, there were already 13,000 revisions. Was that normal or abnormal? Because we're talking about an enormous amount of revisions, and that's only one of the 3 contracts. 2 years ago, there were already 13,000 revisions. Mr. King or Mr. Ng?
Apart from what I said in my earlier answer, I can't make a judgment on those 13,000 revisions.
咁你能唔能夠
Then can you comment on the sheer number of revisions that it may result in the delay of the project? Couldn't you make that judgment?
I'm not sure I'm here to make judgments. All I can say is,
你咁樣講啦，你知唔知道有啲咁嘅修訂？
Perhaps let me put it this way: were you aware of the 13,000 revisions at that time?
I can't say. We did know that there were an enormous number of drawings on this contract, WKT, and that those drawings were being revised as the work progressed in the early stages. I can't make a comment on that number.
我唔係要求你評論。
No, I wasn't asking you to comment on that. I only asked you were you aware of the 13,000 odd revisions.
Personally, I can't say that I was aware of the 13,000 revisions.
係阿吳生咧。
Well,
Mr. Ng.
in the design during the construction stage, but we don't know
my
the
question was.
we don't know the exact
Were you
number,
aware or
13,000.
were you not aware?
Where we don't know, we are not aware of the 13,000 numbers.
Okay.
But we are only aware of these changes.
佢哋唔知道有咁嘅修訂。
多謝主席協助，咁
Thank you for your assistance.
可唔可以第二輪嗰陣時請佢哋？
Can I have an answer to my first question? They may need to check their documents concerning 3 critical observations. Mr. King or Mr. Ng?
Quoting that we have made 3 critical observations in our review, but we don't have the attachment with the letter. That's why we have no knowledge of which 3 critical observations that we made at the moment. Okay, so
主席，我揾出嚟俾佢哋啦，係。
I'll try to dig it out for them. I'll reserve this for the second round. Do we have follow-up questions as well? May I do this in the second round or second session? Oh, all right. Let's have a 15-minute break. And we'll resume 15 past. Okay?
冇15分鐘。